Welcome to Season 4, Episode 79 of the Page 2 podcast. I'm John Clark, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and partner in crime at Moving Traffic Media, Joe DeVita. Today on the show, Claudia Tomina, a veteran of local SEO with over 6 years helping small businesses punch above their weight in Google's search ecosystem. Claudia isn't just optimizing business profiles, she's shaping how visibility works at the intersection of real-world behavior and algorithmic trust. She's the founder of Reputation Arm, and if you've been anywhere near local SEO Twitter, you know her takes cut through the fluff. We wanted to talk to Claudia because the rules of local search are changing fast. Google's AI is filtering reviews, user-generated content is being scrutinized more than ever, and local businesses are stuck in the middle of a system they don't fully control. Claudia helps decode that system, whether it's reinstating a suspended profile, testing the impact of review velocity, or uncovering how categories influence map rankings. She's in it every day. We talk about what it means to run a white hat operation in a gray hat environment, the limits of automation, and why trust is the real currency in local search. All right, here's Claudia Tomina. Maybe the obvious place to start is just diving into maybe how you approach a new client, just starting with maybe a Google local audit. What does that look like? What are the key things that you're evaluating and digging through when you start to look through a Google My Business profile?
Yeah, every client's unique and really it's industry driven. I tend to work with a lot more restaurants than I do other channels. And so for me, restaurants is like a great niche. I really love working with restaurants because there's so much activity on the Google business profile. There's so much you could do. And to be honest with you, there's so much in the restaurant ecosystem within the Google business profile that helps that restaurant rank well. Really working with restaurants is like an easy win. I can always get them to rank like pretty fast. Then you have like lawyers, personal injury lawyers. It's so competitive, right? And so you really have to dig more deeper into like website SEO, more service-based profiles. But like overall, if I have somebody come to me, I will audit their Google business profile. I look at the business name. I'll look at the categories. Those are like the very obvious ones, right? The first things you're going to look at. And then I make sure that everything's filled out from the attributes and everything's like fully optimized. But I do explain to clients like what's going to really drive the ranking factor and what's not, because there's like a lot of confusion with what really pushes the needle and do reviews help? Do they not? Is it the keywords? There's so much nuanced behaviors that like you actually really need to like tie in. And it's not just really one signal. It could be multiple signals to really get something ranked for that keyword. And we could get into that later. But yeah, like a full audit of the Google business profile, everything. And it depends on the industry, whether I'm looking at services, whether I'm looking at the menu, whether I'm looking at like any API integrations. And so all that plays in based on the category.
Yeah, I think that might be a great place to dig in a little bit is the category itself. I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding around what category to choose. Should I write a custom one? Should I choose one of the defaults? Can I choose multiple categories? Maybe dig in there a little bit and talk through some of the things that you've uncovered through testing or maybe just through performance around the category itself.
Yeah, categories are like one of the like biggest ranking factors, and you can't actually manually enter a category. Google gives you, I think they have, I want to say 4,000 categories to choose from. But so there's actually a Google, a Chrome extension that you can use called GMB Everywhere. And it'll
Great,
give
yeah.
you like related categories. So I want to say 2-3 years ago, everyone always said, oh, don't have more than 3 categories because it confuses Google. But then just recently in the last like year or two, all the SEOs have changed their minds and said, if Google allows you to have 10 categories, you need to have 10 categories if they apply, of course, right? You don't want to have an unrelated category. You could trigger a suspension. But the idea is like restaurants are a great example because you're a restaurant, you are a family restaurant, you are a chicken restaurant, you could be a hamburger restaurant, you can be an American restaurant, you can be a fine dining restaurant, you could be seafood, steakhouse. So there's so many, right? And the restaurants really need to like hone in on all those categories because you can miss out on search queries if you don't have that category listed. So for example, I have a client that's an Italian restaurant And I never had pizza restaurant listed because they serve flatbread pizza and there's only 4 on the menu. So it's not like a primary like menu item. It's just they have flatbreads. I added a pizza category and then now they can rank for pizza near me and best pizza restaurant. Before I was never able to get them to rank because they didn't have that category. So you see, like, those are really big signals to Google, and they care about like identifying the search intent, and they use categories as a way to identify that search intent for the customer.
Do you build contracts with some trade in it where you get some kind of allowance to eat at these great restaurants that you service, or are they too far away from your house and you can't do that?
Some are far away, but I do actually have a client that has like a lot of local restaurants and I frequent them often, but he never knows when I'm there, and he's just like the owner, big shot that's never going to be there. But every once in a while when the managers are there and I can help get a review removed, I do get 20% off my bill.
Very nice. Very nice.
It's happened to me twice, so it's really funny.
That's great. That's amazing. Circling back to the category real quickly. So you can choose a primary, and then it sounds like you can choose basically anything that's applicable. Yeah. So,
and it doesn't matter the order of secondary categories. You just have to have them listed. And it's not like it's prioritized by Google. It's actually, I think they just rank it based on like the internal code of that secondary category. But you have to have the secondary category there for you to be able to. But of course, like primary category, like if you do a search on pizza, for example, if pizza is not your primary category, it's really hard to rank in the top local 3-pack for pizza, for a pizza inquiry. So if you're an Italian restaurant and like a pizza secondary, you might end up in 4 and 5. You're not really ending up in the top 3. So you really have to decide like which you want your primary category to be. And like I have another client that's like fast food, but they're all like, it's fast casual. But then they're like a hamburger restaurant, like a slider things. They had to decide whether they want primary to be hamburger restaurant or fast food. And really it's experimental. It depends on your competition, who you're trying to outrank, and then you just go from there. And also I would say like your business name. So if you have a keyword in your business name, then you can afford not to have that as your primary category. For example,
interesting.
Yeah. So like sliders, it's in one of my clients' like business name. So they don't necessarily, to me, need to have a hamburger restaurant as a primary category, because if somebody's searching slider, they're already going to get listed just because of that business name. So business names actually matter more than the category. So when you can add a keyword into your and that's why everybody does it, right? They're like stuffing keywords into their category, into their name. And us SEOs are advising our clients like, hey, just update your DBA name, right? Because really, technically, the guidelines state that they should match signage. So if the keyword's really not in your signage, you could technically get suspended or not pass verification, and we could get into those things later. But if you have a DBA on file, you can get unsuspended by showing proof of that DBA name.
I know you published a post recently around popular times and how that can influence the visibility. Let's dig into that a little bit. This was the first time I had heard about that personally. So talk a little bit more about maybe where you even find popular times if you're a business owner and sort of looking for that.
I read your blog too about the popular time optimization. And it sounds like something you should be careful with.
Yeah, so you can't really influence popular times, right? So Google tracks like people's activity, right? If their location is turned on their mobile phone. So they know exactly how much traffic is coming into the door. And if you look at the Google business profile, they highlight it. Like it'll tell you like this place is busier than usual or not so busy. And it'll tell you like by day of the week, you can actually see the busiest times of the week for that business. So I've noticed that when I'm like experimenting and like looking at rankings, like I had noticed that this one unverified listing, right? It wasn't verified. It was another deli, and it kept showing up in search results. And I'm like, they don't have it claimed. They don't have their like menu listed. They don't have this and that. Why does Google keep showing me this? And I was constantly doing my tests at that same time of the day. And so it was like lunchtime. So this deli is a very popular lunch spot and people hang out there all the time. And then I started connecting like, oh, it's because like Popular Times it's always busier than usual. So I started looking into it a little bit further. And then I started to realize there's a correlation between like when Google thinks that you're really busy, and there's like, you could be, to Google, they have it listed on their blog. Like you could be having a sale, you could be running a promo, you could be have an event. So they want to promote your business. And when they see that signal, and it's real time. So it's not like you're only going to have that ranking boost at that time that Google sees that you're busier than usual.
Got it. So is there a way to manipulate that to, I don't know, influence your Popular Times?
I feel like it would take a lot of effort, and it's like short-lived, right? You could do it naturally by having like events and hosting events and things like that. But yeah, like I did notice like a client of mine, their rankings were like, they're not doing that great. And then all of a sudden, it's a dispensary. So on 420, everything was green in the ranking report. And it was because they were so busy on that day. And I just laughed because I knew it was like Popular Times data.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
The correlation there is pretty obvious, right?
And then they dropped right at like a few days, like the next day. So it like really is just like, you'll notice if you see a jump in rankings, it's something happened. There was an event, and most of the time I ask my clients like, hey, you really took off on this day. What'd you guys have going on? And they had something.
So maybe the flip side of Popular Times is a location that maybe has radius targeting, right? So maybe they don't actually have or serve users at their location. Maybe it's a service-based business. We work with some roofers, for example.
We do work with a couple of roofers, and people don't go to the roofer's company to get their quote. The roofer goes to their home, right? So one example we've struggled with this decision, and we've gone back and forth on what is the service area that we should let Google profile know that we service. They service multiple counties, but there's really only a few cities where they get most of their business. And they're more interested in ranking high for these few cities within the counties that they serve. So should they let Google know they can service all these counties, or should they only service the 3 cities where they really want to rank for?
Okay, so there's a lot I could say about this. So first,
take your time. We've got an hour.
First of all, okay, service-based companies, technically they're an SAB. It's service area business. And so a lot of SABs have to hide their address because Google says people don't come to you, you go to them. But the problem is when you hide your address, you don't rank as good. So you really don't want to hide your address if you can avoid it. But here's like the workaround. Technically, if you have an office and you have signage, you don't have to hide your address. Like you can have your business listed because you could have deliveries and they need maps to get to your place, or employees or anything like that. Clients can come visit you. You might have a showroom. So technically, just because you do service people at their homes doesn't mean you're stuck in this like SAB mode. So anytime like I can have a client like get signage at their office, like I advise them, like you should show your address because then it's way easier to rank because then Google's looking at proximity. Now most people think that your service area when you list it on your Google business profile is a ranking factor. It's not. All it's doing is drawing a map. So you know how when you like find a business and then it shows the map of the service area that you're servicing? So if I list like this county or this city or this zip code, Google's just drawing the map for that. So it shows the user, hey, they service this area. But as far as ranking you in that area, no. What's ranking you in that area is the address that you used when you created the business profile. So if you used your home address, you're going to rank within your home address proximity. And then it gets complicated. So let's just say you move and you're in a service area business, you hid your address and you moved. And so you updated your address. It always causes a glitch. No matter what, you're always going to rank at the original address that you created the profile in. So even if you update the address, so say you're a window cleaner or a roofer, but you move out of state, but you want to keep your Google business profile because you're just transferring your business, you just relocated and you want to keep your reviews. The problem is when they move the address, they're still ranking in the old place that they were at They're not ranking in their new area. What Google support and what like most SEOs will advise is to create a new business profile and transfer your reviews. So you need to be very thoughtful when you create the profile, the address that you're using. So if you work from home, you can't show your address. That's when you hide your address. So really the only time I recommend hiding the address is when you're at a home address. And a lot of people work from home. They can still go out and service, like locksmiths, for example. Most of them work from home, so they're service area businesses. So but really how you rank would be creating service pages on your website, location pages.
So I'm going to follow up because it's been a tough question that we've had to go back and forth with clients on this over the years. You have a location, but you service a much larger geography, a radius of maybe 60 miles from your location. But it's very hard to rank outside of just the area where you've told Google your business sits. Are there things that you do to try to rank 60 miles away? Is it even possible? It's very hard to monitor, so it's hard to say if you're doing it or not.
Yeah, like your Google business profile, you're only allowed a 2-hour service area. So if you're traveling more than 2 hours, you can't have it listed or you risk being suspended. And if you are suspended, they won't. You can't put the whole state, right? If it takes you 2.5 hours to get somewhere and you have that listed as a service area, you won't get reinstated. You have to have a 2-hour, because think about it, Google business profiles are meant to show people like local visibility. So if you want to rank outside that local area, you need to like tell Google where you service on your website. So just create like service pages. So you might say roofer servicing this city. And then you might have another page that says that you service like this city, and then change up the content and things like that to help you rank. And then really like Google ads, like LSA ads and things like that to get the clicks and the engagement and the click-through ratio.
Mm-hmm. Do you do a lot of the LSA ads for clients too, or is it mostly?
I have my partner's agency handles all like website SEO and all the ads. And I'm pretty much like reputation management and Google business profile management and listings management.
Awesome. I wanted to circle back to the situation where you might have an existing location but are moving to a new one. I feel like that's something that companies come across every once in a while and is very complicated.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could walk through the proper steps to do that. So it sounds like you shouldn't mark your existing location as closed until you have all the reviews and everything transferred. Is there like a specific order of steps?
So like I would recommend like creating the new Google business profile at the other location. And then you can go on Google Maps and mark one as a duplicate. But it gets like a little sticky because I've done that before. And then the one I'm marking as a duplicate ends up staying and the new one got merged. And so Google's like dumb. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happened. And then I was like, oh, great. Like now I have to and then I had to re-verify, and it just caused a little bit more issues. So I would say create the new Google business profile, reach out to customer support, give them the old profile ID and say, I need you to transfer the reviews. I moved. I need you to transfer the reviews to this Google business profile and mark this one closed or merge it with my other one. And so however they handle it, it's just hard to get through to customer support. And like we could touch on this for a little bit. Like if you contact customer support, you're going to get an automated response. That's normal. Like by default, expect it. Like you're just going to get that automated generic response. You have to reply. Again, you're going to get a generic automated response. You have to reply again. And like, you need to be really like tactful and thoughtful in your response and make sure you're including images, maybe a video. This is what I need done, because you're dealing with people overseas that like, they're trained in a certain way. Like you're just getting that automated response. And so until they can really like understand, then they can escalate to the end, like a different team. So it's like really all they are doing is saying, oh, you're worthy enough to get moved to technical support.
We worked with a client who had an office in a WeWork, and they wanted that location listed, and there was no signage anywhere because it's a WeWork. And so we basically ended up getting a printing of their logo for the door of their office, and basically took a picture of that. And that was the workaround. But you're right. They're very rigid on what their requirements are to see. Yeah, maybe that's a good segue into suspensions, which are becoming more and more automated. They're difficult to overcome. they're anxiety inducing for the business owner for sure. Maybe talk to us a little bit about how, or maybe some specific ways that you found to get those lifted faster. Is it the things that you send as proof of life, if you will, or any other tactics that you've come across in working through these scenarios?
Yeah, there's so many. But okay, so yeah, you'll definitely, especially in the last 6 months, there's been like huge waves of suspensions. And usually it's focused on one category. Like I'll notice like this week it's all locksmiths. Next week's it's garage door repair. Another week it's whatever category. There's always there's always like garage doors, locksmiths. They're very sensitive. They're very prone, and roofers. They're very prone to like fraud and like having fake listings, lead gen companies that create these fake listings, hundreds, thousands of them. And like, they're just one of those categories where Google treats a little bit differently. So, and if you're a restaurant, you have activity, you have people coming in, they could see that traffic. They're not taking you down, right? They want you on maps. But like when you don't have like strong signals, you're going to be like, it's more likely you could get suspended, right? Without those popular time signals and things like that. But what happens is like you might have keywords in your business name, like even roofer, right? Or something doesn't align with your website. The user could have been like, now that Gemini's checking for fake reviews and things like that, what if you got flagged for a fake review and now your account that's associated with your Google business profile may have triggered that suspension? People don't realize that. It's the users on the account. You don't want to just let any employee on your account, or even like franchise owners. I don't even like when franchise owners have access to their account. Like the brand should have access, then they should use a third-party tool that like something that we have that allows them to respond to reviews or things like that. Because if that business owner has like a regular Gmail or something, and it's not a domain related like email, which is more sensitive, then they could be flagged for something dumb, right? They suggested an edit, it didn't get accepted. They left a review on a business. They did something to a competitor, whatever it is, then they can trigger their business to get suspended. So there's so many things that can trigger a suspension. It could just be category driven. It could be user. It could be deceptive content, which seems like everything's deceptive content. That's one of the main reasons for suspensions that Google uses. And people don't understand it. What is deceptive content? What did I do and it could just be that your website information doesn't align with your Google business profile. So if you say that you're servicing this area and this area, but your website doesn't have service areas listed, that could be considered deceptive content. If your like business name doesn't match up, that could be deceptive content. What else? There's a lot of different things. I can't think of them all right now, but at the end of the day, I will tell you this. There's certain categories. If you appeal, you'll get denied. If you do another appeal and you get denied, the only way to get reinstated is to go to the Google forum and have a product expert escalate.
Yeah. The Google forum is like customer service. It's pretty hit or miss in terms of how many responses you'll get back. Yeah. Is there a way to, I don't know, give yourself a better chance to actually get one of those experts to respond? Or
yeah, okay. If you have a bronze member, bronze members can't escalate. So if you have somebody that's like trying to move up and they're like just responding to a bunch of threads because they think like the more they respond, like the faster they're going to move up, then what happens is I'm the product expert and I go into my dashboard and I filter on unanswered. Because if you've already been answered, I don't like, I'm just looking for people that haven't gotten answered. If you have somebody that's like bronze answer, you're a lot less likely to get a PE to answer your thread. And so you might have to start over. So I would suggest just like maybe creating a new thread and then hoping like even silvers can't escalate, but they could do a few things. But so yeah, you really want like a gold, platinum, or diamond to pick up the thread to really help you. And then I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but like I do get a lot of people messaging me on LinkedIn. Hey, can you help me? But don't say hi. Don't tell me like in a page what happened. I don't care. Just send me the thread. Don't even say hello, and just send the thread and I'll pick it up. And like I do know other PAs that do that. I just feel like so bad for like business owners that are like struggling. They've been suspended for a month And they're like, it's so frustrating, right? And they don't know what to do. They have no idea. They don't understand that like your paperwork has to like align with your Google business profile name, or that the content on your website, like I've done it so much. I know exactly what to look for. I can pinpoint it in literally 10 minutes, where they're just like reading through guidelines and all kinds of stuff, and it's taking them hours, or they didn't submit the correct evidence. And then I have to tell them, like, give me a drive. This is the evidence I need. Like, you don't want to just submit an invoice. Google doesn't trust that. You have to prove that you like actually exist. Like, you need an EIN document. You need maybe like a strong signal to Google. Like, tax documents work the best, articles of incorporation. Then and if the business name doesn't match, because like you're a franchise, right? So you're always doing business as the franchise name. You always have a different legal name. That's okay. You just have to connect the dots, whether it's through your lease or your your assumed name document. So these are the kind of things that I'm like, give me this, show me this. And then I send it over to Google. Hey, can you take another look at this? And so we do the first check, we do an audit, and like it might take me like to go back and forth with the person because they can't get the documents or whatever it is. And then I need to see images of the Google business profile from the business name all the way down to the attributes, because you can't, they're like, sometimes they're doing something in the business description, like running a promo. You can't do that. That's against guidelines. You won't get reinstated. Your service area can't be with like the entire US or out of state or anything like that. A lot of people miss that. The business name, they're like my DBA, but the documents don't match it. So there's a lot of things that the Ps just have tons of experience with and that we can help with. But yeah, if you are going to reach out for help, like, just send a thread. And a lot of times people come on an existing thread, paste their thread in my thread, and then I lock it. I don't even respond to them. And then I pick up the thread for them.
So it's frustrating to tell a small business owner that you just have to start over,
I know.
But there really is no hard out. Like until you get the right person to respond to you, you got to just keep asking that same question. Maybe you can word it a little bit differently so you get a different answer.
It's persistence. That's why, like, when somebody actually reaches out to me, I'm like, okay, they're desperate. They put forth the effort. I'm going to help them.
I was hearing you talk about the consistency between the legal documentation and the business information. It reminded me a lot of the olden days of local SEO, where it was all about citation consistency.
Yeah.
Is that still important in today's environment, or has Google given more weight to other signals within my business profile, for example?
Yeah, I don't think name consistency is as important as we used to say it was. So Google knows, like, when you connect your social profiles in your Google business profile, they know, like, they can match that, right? So like, you might have a different Google business profile name because you have that keyword in there, but you wouldn't put that on Facebook, right? But you need it in your Google name, but you don't necessarily need, and Yelp and Apple, they will not change your name unless it matches the website. So like, even brands that legally add the city. So if you have 100 locations and it's, this name of, and then the city name, Yelp won't add the city name and Apple won't add the city name because it doesn't match the website. So that you don't have that app consistency, but your Google business profile has the city name because you want to rank for that search query with somebody's running the city. But I think that's another discussion, but I don't think that's as important as we think it is because Google knows proximity. But but definitely your address, the consistency matters. I wouldn't be too worried if it's like ST or street or unit, or I don't think there's anything wrong with having minor discrepancies in that. And even phone numbers, if you think about it, people use call tracking. So you're not having the same, a lot of my clients use call tracking. They don't have the same phone number across all platforms. Like, we might have a different number on Yelp, on Angie's List, on Google, on the website. It's all different, but it doesn't matter.
So that's really interesting to me, because I think the common rule of thought is that call tracking was bad because it may not be a local number, or it may be a 1-800 number, and Google's sort of looking for this consistent local number. So that's really interesting. You haven't seen.
I like, most people aren't using 800 numbers anymore. When I see clients using it, I question it, ask them why they need it. And having the same phone number across multiple Google accounts is a bad idea. You could run into mergers. Google doesn't like it. You should always have different phone numbers. And then if they like all go into the same funnel, then they all go into the same funnel. But you should have different phone numbers for each Google business profile, every business. But yeah, like, I would just say, like, citations matter. The overall like consistency, like not as much, right? Because there's always those edge cases. But at the end of the day, like clients will say, I don't care about Yelp. Yelp sucks anyways. I don't care to be on Yelp. But Google cares if you're on Yelp. It's a trust signal to them. They want to know that your business exists on Yelp and that like you are who you say you are. It becomes, you're more established.
People who use Yelp,
right?
Just because you don't, where people are finding information about you.
Or if you're a service-based company, you need to be on Angie. If they see that citation on Angie and website URLs matching everywhere helps, addresses, they can connect the dots without having that huge discrepancies, right? They're smarter. Like these search engines aren't that dumb. They can still tell you have the same social profiles on your landing page, on your Google page, on wherever else, and the same website landing pages.
So I'm curious around tools like Yext and OzLocal and these other sorts of tools that for, a small business owner or even for franchises where they're trying to manage all these locations at scale, how valuable are these tools? And I guess maybe a supplemental question, do they help prevent suspensions because they're being pushed or the updates are being pushed through a trusted source? Or love to dig into the tool conversation a little bit, because I know that there's strong opinions on both sides, especially around Yext, right? When a location is removed or you stop paying.
So I'm a big believer in citations, but not just because that's one of my primary services, but because say you're a pizza place and you're seasonal, you change your hours. Like every winter, you might have shortened hours. In the summer, you're extending your hours. How do you get that syndicated out everywhere? Like a lot of the tools are great, but what people don't understand is they really have to be managed too. So just because I change your hours doesn't mean the API syndicated it out appropriately everywhere. First of all, it could take Bing like a month to update your data. It's crazy. Bing, when people say Bing's coming back, I laugh. Like they can't even update data properly. It takes forever. It just takes forever. And then Yelp, if you're not like a paid customer, there's very few services that actually have a API with Yelp. So that has to be done manually. And then Apple will not get updated unless your website has the same matching data. So a lot of people just fail in that, right? Imagine you're a franchise owner or just even a single business owner, and you think you changed your hours on Google. Hello, you forgot to change your website. You forgot the header. You have a contact us page that still has the hours listed, right? And they're wrong. You changed it only in one spot. Who's going to update Yelp? Who's going to update Angie? Who's going to update all these places? And not every TripAdvisor is not included in API integrations with these local citations. So you still have to, there's still a lot of manual work. So that's what we do. We're a little bit more of a boutique shop when it comes to listings management, where we have the tool to syndicate out your data, but we're also auditing it too. We're making sure that Apple did, that Google synced. APIs break all the time. I would say 8 out of 10 times, I might have to do a manual update on Facebook for whatever reason the sync didn't happen, even though it's connected in our platform. But so you still have to check to make sure that those hours got syndicated. And as a brand, if you have franchisees, it's almost 100% certain that you have to have a listings management tool like Moz, Reputation Arm, Bright Local, any of these tools. It's a must.
How many locations, when you get to a point, does it not make sense to try to do it manually? You need a tool once you hit 2 locations, 3 locations. Do you have a piece of advice on that?
If I have a lawyer, right, they're one location and they're 24 hours. Do I really need to recommend citation management for them? But it does help your rankings. People say, oh, it doesn't help as much. It does. You do get a boost in rankings. So if it's in their budget, I offer it. And it could be a one-time citation build where you just do it one time. And then because you are 24 hours, you're not really changing, you're not moving. But when you are more seasonal and you change hours often, you have to have a tool in place to syndicate out the data.
I have so many hypotheticals I want to talk to you about, and I'm not going to stop. So the first one is with a personal injury lawyer has an office downtown Detroit, and they're in the office from 8 to 5 every day. And then at 5 o'clock has a call center answering the phone. Do you suggest that they're 24 hours on the local business profile?
Yeah. And
or just
because it depends.
in the office?
All the lawyers are 24 hours. So if all the lawyers are saying they're 24 hours and then you close at 8, if somebody's searching for a lawyer after 8 o'clock, you're not going to show up because we know now that hours are a ranking factor. So like Google prioritizes the business that's open. And that's why you'll see like certain lunch spots do better. If you're searching for a restaurant during lunchtime and like your favorite dinner spots doesn't open till 4, you're not going to see it in maps as often as you're seeing it during lunch. So openness matters. And so if all the lawyers are 24 hours, you're going to want to be 24 hours.
You need to say it on your website too. You need that consistency everywhere.
One quick follow-up to that, and then I'll let you get back to your hypotheticals. Going back to the scenario where you're working in a radius and it's service-based, you can technically collect leads at any time. So does that warrant a 24-hour time frame, or does it only make sense when they're physically answering the phone? Because they have
guidelines say you have to have somebody answering the phone. So if you have a call center, you could get away with it.
Interesting. Go ahead, Joe.
I want to talk about the tool that you built. We read a little bit about it, and as I was reading about it, I thought maybe it was only to manage reviews. Is it more than that? It's a citation building tool as well?
Yeah, so we do citation management through the tool, and then we do reputation management. We have an NPS. So you could do an NPS, or you could just do a regular review campaign where you drive them right to Google. But really, you can ask for a review on any platform. Like you could just add a URL and we could send them to whatever page that is. Especially now in the age of AI, like I'm encouraging some of my clients like, hey, let's get a little creative. Let's take your customer list and ask for reviews on TripAdvisor if you need to do a refresh, because things are getting cited. Like you're seeing things pop up in AI. And all these other like third-party sites that were like less relevant are becoming a little bit more relevant. I don't think we need to have a whole campaign strategy around it, but like some fresh content there would help.
Can you talk to us a little bit about building that tool? I saw you have a connection to Angie, which is huge for home service businesses. How did you develop that relationship to get that?
We use a third-party scraping tool. And so like with this integration with the scraping tool, we have access to 100 sites. So we have DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, OpenTable. So like I deal with a lot of restaurants, so OpenTable is a big one. And then Facebook, Google is a direct connection. Yelp is scraped. TripAdvisor is scraped. The majority of them are scraped. The direct connections we have are with Google and Facebook, and that's because the API goes both ways. But we have like really cool tools where we allow them to send an email to get approval on the review response. So anything that's 3, 2, or 1 stars, they can send it off to a manager to approve it, and all they have to do is hit approve. You have the AI responses. I haven't really developed it where it automatically posts an AI response just because I don't trust it. I feel like there still needs that like human connection to read over the review. But yeah, and then there's just, we track deleted reviews. So if all of a sudden Google does this big sweep and then all of a sudden you went from 120 reviews to 100, you'll know exactly which 20 reviews were deleted. And then potentially you could go back to Google and say, hey, can I get these reinstated?
Have you ever done that? And successfully got them reinstated?
So like in the beginning, they were like, I think they had like issues and they probably knew they had issues, and like you could email them, show them an image of the review and they would put it back. But as their AI models are getting a lot more sophisticated, I think like the mistakes are like a little bit less. And so they're trusting their removals more. And so they're less inclined to reinstate some reviews, but you could still try. You could still try to contact support and get it reinstated.
Have you noticed the way the review information is served? Have you noticed it changed with the AI overviews?
Yeah, like I'll give you the best example. Like I noticed a couple times where like I get the email notifications that say your review was removed. And I always look at them because I want to see what are they focused on to get that review removed. And they're getting a lot more sophisticated. So like I had a couple reviews removed just because they were just emojis. And yeah, like it was just an emoji and then they removed it. And then I thought maybe, okay, it was a fluke, like maybe it was something with the account, but then it happened again. And then like I posted on LinkedIn something about it, and I know a lot of Google employees follow me. So they probably saw it and fixed something, whatever. Like Google's watching everything. So you're seeing something, their ears are open. So if you say something about AI mode and something sucking or whatever, they'll fix it. So just speak up.
Yeah.
That's funny. Cool. I feel like with all the AI conversations floating around, it makes sense that we have at least one AI question. I'm curious if you think that automated review detection will maybe eventually tie into user behavior. So
It already does.
will they be able to
It already
tell?
does.
Okay,
Yep. So,
got
and
it.
I
So that,
think that's like a lot of why there was that increase in suspensions, because are they running these AI models and then flagging user accounts for like fake reviews? And then all of a sudden that is associated with your Google business profile account. So then you triggered a suspension because your account is not in good standing. And why is your account not in good standing? Is it because of a review? I don't know for sure, but that's the feeling I get. Those are the trends I see. If I see a bunch of suspensions and the reasons because like your account is not in good standing or your account is restricted, I think that's the terminology they use. Like your account is restricted and they're like, what? Like, why is my account? They have no idea. Like, no, but they don't understand. Like, why would their account be restricted? They didn't do anything. It's all harmless edits, but you have to understand, like, Google has to like keep an eye out on the fraudsters and like all the like other like black hat tactics that people are using. And sometimes people do things that might seem or appear to be black hat to Google, and then you're flagged.
right. Reviews are so important, and you really have to, as you mentioned, solicit them in a correct fashion. Are there any tips to nudge that request to make it more valuable for a business, or are there very strict guidelines? You just basically say, can you please give a review if you had a great service?
Yeah, so I definitely think that like everyone should have some sort of review strategy in place, like some kind of automated. If you can automate it, that's the best way to do it. But if you're a personal injury lawyer and you're only like closing 2 or 3 cases a month, obviously you don't have to automate it. And you can ask for the review or whatever it is. But it's always best when you send a text or an email through a system. It just like converts better. Like I hear it all the time. I have this plumber and he's no, I don't want to spend the money on that. I could just ask for the review, but he was just never getting the reviews. And then he calls me up one day and you're right, it works. I'm like, yeah, because they like have good intentions, right? The customers love you. You did great work, but they forget. But then when you send them that email, it sits in that inbox or that text message. They're just a little bit more inclined to leave the review. So it does work. It converts. And then I'll notice like when I have restaurant clients export their reservation list from OpenTable and we import it into our system because we don't have a direct API. So we have to do this one manual process. But so that if there's 2,000 reservations, I'm not sending 2,000 at one time. We might send a few hundred, but rankings go up because you're getting more clicks, right? So Google's seeing a lot more activity. So like those review campaigns can work in another way, right? So you are generating more reviews, which helps your rankings because review recency is a real thing. You want to stay like, you can't go stale on reviews. If you go 2 months without getting a review and you're a roofer, like your rankings will drop. Like you have to get reviews like consistently every month. And then like those clicks too, even if I notice we didn't get a ton of reviews from the campaign, but for some reason rankings just go up because there's 5 or 6 more clicks on the profile. So click-through ratio is really a real thing. And then I just want to point out, I have this restaurant client and I just wanted to see how they ranked for Caesar salad because I was trying to understand keywords and reviews. And I know that all their reviews, like not all, but a ton of reviews mention Caesar salad because they do a tableside Caesar. And so I was like, that's a good one. I'm just going to pick it. Not that I care that they ranked for Caesar salad. It was just for my study and my test. I thought it would be relevant. And they weren't ranking for Caesar salad, even though they had 43 reviews that mentioned Caesar salad. So I was like blown away. And I couldn't figure out why J. Alexander's and Crispelli's Pizza, who like aren't known for Caesar, right? But this restaurant is an Italian restaurant, has tableside Caesar, constantly was being mentioned in the reviews. And so I was trying to understand why I couldn't get my client to rank for this keyword. And what happened was I figured out that the menu item name said Caesar Kitchen. So a lot, like they were trying to be the sophisticated Italian restaurant. And so a lot of their menu items didn't match up with the keywords. So people have to understand, like if a person mentions a service in your review and you cannot back up that service or menu item with another signal, you won't rank. So make sure your menu item like says like slider, hamburger, Caesar salad, nothing like too fancy. And then if you're a service-based company, you have to fill out your services. So, personal injury litigation or whatever the keywords are that you're trying to rank for that you see in your reviews, they should be in your services. And then you'll have a higher correlation of ranking.
Great advice. We're running low on time. I'm going to squeeze one more. I want to ask about the recency on reviews. You said how important that was. Somewhat out of the control of the business owner. You can have a review campaign and try and stimulate it. But how about profile posts that you have complete control over? Is that still a big signal?
It's not a ranking factor. So posts are not a ranking factor, but it does create engagement. So first of all, photos are keywords, right? They're the new keywords. Add photos all the time and videos because Google can read them, right? And AI can read what it is. And that's another signal. So if you have sushi and you have reviews that say sushi, you have a menu sushi and you have images of sushi, it's the culmination of all those signals that'll help you rank. But let's just say you have a special and so think about it. Google's looking at signals, right? You have a special for that week. Why should they rank you for that keyword? It's not on the menu. I lost my train of thought, but you were saying something about.
In the past, we always would recommend a regular cadence for posting on your Google business profile.
So again, if it helps with engagement, if people stay on your profile longer and they're clicking through and scrolling, that helps. So you definitely want to post, and then they're highlighting posts in AI overviews. So you want to, especially if you don't have a huge social presence, which we know a lot of small business owners like the plumbers, these like local businesses, they don't really push a lot of social. So Google Posts is like a really good way of getting your profile like more complete and showcasing what you do and your jobs. So if you're a roofer and you're showing images of roofs that you completed and people are scrolling through, that's more time and clicks on your profile, and that will help you. But are they honing in on the keyword in the post? No, they're not.
I have two quick follow-ups on that. On the image front, there's been back and forth on whether embedding image metadata, like lat and longitude of a location and things like that, play a role or have an impact on ranking.
It doesn't.
Love to get your thoughts on that. Okay.
They don't, that doesn't like really exist anymore. And I think Google like strips the metadata when you upload the photo. So that's not really a thing anymore.
That was my understanding.
And I'll give your audience like a really cool tip. Like you could go on your on mobile, and then if you're on your profile, you can actually hold down on the image, and then you can click search this image with Google Lens, and then an AI overview shows up and it tells you about the image. So if you want to know if Google's understanding your images, that's a really good way of testing that.
And then last thing, I don't know if this is a question or more of a statement, but so for link building, right? One of the things we would try to calculate is what's the rate of link acquisition. So if we were going to start a link building campaign, we wouldn't skew too far out of what Google is accustomed to seeing. It sounds like you could apply a similar approach to review cadence.
Yeah.
Like what's the average cadence of reviews that are coming in? And if you're thinking about implementing a campaign, trying to slowly maybe increase that average over time would be a smart way to do it. Again, provided that it's a real and legitimate review.
Like, so if all of a sudden if you're like a restoration company and you got 10 reviews in one day and half of them didn't post, Google's seeing some signs like unfamiliar behavior, right? You're getting flagged maybe, you got to be careful. And then like I've noticed like lawyers with like overly sentimented reviews like get filtered out. And so like sometimes like I'll tell the client there's it was too hyped up. Like just tell them to go on your Google business profile. And I learned this from another PE, Vinay, he's great. He was like, if you have the customer search your business on maps and then like click call or click on your website and then repost the review, it might show up. So it's like those trust signals. So if all of a sudden you're getting reviews, or if you're getting a review from somebody out of your service area, that's a flag. You don't want to do things like that. And there's new laws out in the UK that like regarding reviews and fake reviews. And so Google's under a lot of pressure to mediate and identify fake reviews. And so that's why a lot of these things are in place. And then now they have that like review badge of shame. I don't know if you're familiar, but like they can turn off review posting for your business if they see like a pattern of bad behavior. And so instead of people seeing reviews, they're going to see this like snippet that says reviews are turned off for this place because we detected unusual review behavior. And so then you're screwed. You're not going to rank. You're not getting new reviews. And it just kills your credibility.
Yeah, that is not something you want on your My Business
No.
profile at all.
Scary.
Absolutely. This has been an amazing conversation filled with lots of useful tips. Before we let you go, I don't know if you've listened to the other episodes, but we like to end with sort of a prediction. So 12 months from now, when you go to google.com, what do you think the local search experience will be in the age of AI mode or whatever it becomes?
Yeah, so it's turning to AI mode. So look, if you go on, I'm opted in on my personal account for like search labs. I could see Google Discovery, and you can only see Google Discovery on mobile. And so I think Google Discovery will be pushed into it's going to be the new browser. And then if you're on Google Discovery now, if you search something, it automatically takes you to AI mode. And so in 12 months, that's just going to be the norm. They're testing it now. They're going in that direction. That's what we're going to see. And then AI mode is basically right now, it looks like a 4-pack and it's linking to your Google business profile. So Google for local, not a whole lot's changing. There are going to be different ranking factors. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, I explore a lot of them, like review responses. Can you add AI context into your review response? Q&A now, like that's another way you can add a lot of context for AI, like learning machines. It's your website, your H1 headers. There's a lot of different things you're going to look at that's differently than just Google business profiles. But at the end of the day, you still need to maintain and manage your Google business profile. And it's like a huge data source for AI mode anyway.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us on the Page 2 podcast. And if you enjoyed the show, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.